Tea Biz podcast delivers tea news that you need to know. A recap of the week's major headlines with commentary and cultural trends hosted by Dan Bolton. It is the voice of origin for tea professionals and enthusiasts worldwide.
Think of us as a digital caravan of storytellers bringing authentic, authoritative, exotic, and exclusive stories to you weekly from the tea lands. Tea is both art and craft. It nourishes and inspires. It is the most ancient of plant-based medicines, simultaneously energizing the body as it soothes the mind. Intimately local in character, the tea trade exerts global influence, employing millions to supply customers of far greater volumes than coffee. It is a fascinating, intricate topic, far more complex than one person can master. That is why the Tea Biz podcast enlists 40 voices skilled in 12 languages to tell the story of tea. Authentic reporting relies on the expertise of tea professionals who know the tea lands from birth and speak the native tongue. Transparency is storytelling grounded at origin. Each week, the Tea Biz podcast summarizes news with the greatest impact on the tea industry. But tea requires far more nuanced coverage than the recitation of production volumes and commodity prices. That is why the Tea Biz podcast is paired with the more inclusive Tea Biz blog and Tea Journey magazine. The podcast offers a weekly mix of news and features. It is innovative and interactive, permitting listeners to conveniently contact reporters at origin to ask questions that are answered via text messages that are delivered privately to their phone. Welcome and Happy New Year! Today we celebrate the first new moon of the lunar calendar. In China, this begins the year of the ox, symbolizing those who are strong, reliable, fair, and conscientious. Here are the headlines. Tea packs a punch. India earmarks worker subsidies for women and children. And beware of false claims. The United States FDA so far has issued 145 warnings to companies, including tea companies, to stop misleading consumers with products that claim to cure COVID-19. More in a minute, but first, this important message.
What makes a perfect cup of Ceylon tea? The perfect cup is from the tea businesses that ensure the protection of all the children living within their tea estates. We salute Kailani Valley, Telawakili, Bogawanthalawa, Harana, and Elliptia tea estates. Support Save the Children, Sri Lanka.
Rates of alcohol consumption in spring 2020 were up 14% compared with the same period in 2019, and drinkers consumed nearly 30% more than in pre-pandemic months, according to Modern Healthcare magazine. The spike is due in part to the onset of cabin fever and the speedy delivery to your door of every kind of booze you can imagine, from high-proof bourbon and scotch to crafty beers and juice coolers. Michigan residents, as one example, consumed an average 956 alcoholic drinks per person in 2020. Hard tea, with its moderate volume of alcohol and healthy halo, is in sync with this trend. Well-known twisted tea of 5% alcohol by volume, iced tea, dates to 2000. But leave it to America's big bottlers to add a new layer of glitz by combining tea with trending seltzer. Truly hard seltzer iced tea of 5% ABV launched by the Boston Beer Company this month follows Pioneer Organic Michelob Ultra Hard Seltzer, Bud Light Seltzer, Molson Coors Seltzer, and Mask, an organic 12-ounce, 4% ABV yerba mate base with blue agave and monk fruit, priced at $9.99 for a 4-pack. Business Insight. Beware. 5% ABV delivers more than a half ounce of alcohol per serving, the same as a 12-ounce can of beer. A 5% tea seltzer contains 25% more alcohol than a 4% light beer, the equivalent of 1.8 alcohol units versus 1.4 alcohol units, a measure of how our bodies process alcohol. Adults typically process 1 alcohol unit per hour, so drinking 2 or 3 seltzers delivers far more than a gentle buzz. Moderation is trending. Globally, the low-alcohol beverage category grew to 3% of the entire alcohol market in 2020. Volume increases are projected to grow by 31% by 2024. India's Ministry of Commerce announced $137 million in welfare studies for tea workers in the government's new budget last week. Officials say a major portion of the 10 billion rupees will specifically address challenges facing women and dependent children. Women constitute 50% of the workforce, deftly performing the entire gamut of activities from nursery to planting, bringing up young saplings, plucking, pruning, and manufacturing in the factory, writes the Tea Board of India. Quote, "It is due to the strenuous and untiring efforts of the tea garden workers that the Indian tea industry has exhibited remarkable resilience in the midst of multilateral changes, climate change, upheaval in the market, and the COVID-19 pandemic," end quote, writes the Tea Board. Biz Insight. There are 200,000 female tea workers in West Bengal and 400,000 in Assam. Together, these provinces produce 81% of India's tea. Many women working in the fields are poorly educated, older, and not in good health. Younger women confront a shortage of childcare and lack training that imparts a broad range of skills. Many lack a feeling of self-reliance. The intent of the investment is to significantly enhance women's quality of life, writes the Economic Times. Tea is known to bolster the body's immune system. Its composition of polyphenols, catechins, and nutrients offer many health benefits, but tea does not cure coronavirus. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration this week ordered Osar Herbs, marketers of coronavirus destroyer tea, to remove inaccurate claims about their product or face stiff fines. The company promptly complied. Similar products promoted as Virus BioShield, Flu Immune Drops, and Spike Protein Vaccine were also called out for false claims. Biz Insight. FDA maintains an online list of products that fraudulently claim to mitigate, prevent, treat, or cure COVID-19. FDA has sent 145 warning letters to pharmaceutical, holistic, and herbal companies since last March. Self-policing is in everyone's best interest. Report unlawful sales of medical products to fda.gov. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Q-Trade Teas works with tea purveyors at every scale, from promising startups to the world's largest multinational beverage brands in the hot, iced, and bottled tea segments. With U.S.-based formulation, blending, and packaging services, Q-Trade can help you innovate, scale up, and grow your specialty tea brand. For more information, visit our website, qtradeteas.com.
This week, we report on the growing sophistication of tea farming in the United States and learn about Canada's acclaimed tea sommelier certification program that trains tea professionals on campus or online. Since 2013, the U.S. League of Tea Growers has nurtured close collaboration among the more than 60 growers in 15 American states producing tea for commercial sale. Led by Angela McDonald, owner of Oregon Tea Traders, the group hosts online webinars and discussions. This week, Kevin Gascoyne, a well-known tea buyer and co-owner of the Camellia Sinensis Tea Company in Montreal, counseled the group on what American tea growers need to do to make themselves competitive on the world stage. He also had this to say about what makes America's experiment in tea growing relevant to the industry at large.
Well, if we look around the world at different tea cultures, we have many models from the large archaic hierarchies of plantation systems down to the ancestral farming family models that go back generations. All these models have been finely tuned over time to be consistent and very cost efficient. Here in North America, despite the tiny amount of people that are involved in this movement, which seems to be happening, we have a very different picture. We have a relatively wealthy, highly educated crowd. And they're approaching their projects from many varied previous backgrounds, which brings in a lot of extra energy and ideas. They all have a passion for it and the hands-on contact of recreational gardeners almost. While applying the research and analysis of modern educated minds, they also have very little cultural baggage. So they don't have all this previous experience that in some ways is obviously advantageous to the older models, but can also be baggage. It can also weigh things down, and it can also get in the way of the fresh ideas. Importantly, they also don't have the confines of preconceived methodologies or the presence of that all-powerful market expectation which guides all the other established old world tea regions. That market expectation that is defining the product right from the point where it's being bought at the end of the chain. So this fresh look at tea growing is very exciting. And I think in the long term, once things have worked out and once we've seen it carrying on for a while, I think it's going to have a lot to offer back to the rest of the world.
During the online discussion, you cited a lot of community spirit as an advantage. Will you elaborate?
Yes. Not only do we have this fresh start situation happening, we have a community which has such cooperative motivation that it promises to be much bigger than the sum of its parts. And I think, very excitingly, in the long term, we'll have much to offer back to the rest of the tea world.
Enrollment in the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada's Tea Sommelier certification program surged during lockdowns and continues to grow in the new year. The program, designed for tea professionals, costs between $2,500 and $3,500 to complete online or on campus. Jessica Natalie Willard in this report talks with founder Shabnam Weber and Mackenzie Bailey, a tea sommelier enrolled in the online program.
Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. And what I'm wondering about is, what does becoming a tea sommelier through the Tea Association of Canada look like?
Well, thank you for having me, Jessica. The tax certified tea sommelier program it's an extensive program. It's quite in depth. It's a program that I wrote for the association about 12 years ago now, and it's made up of 8 different modules. So we take students from the basics, Tea 101, on a pretty long journey of understanding tea history, understanding how tea is processed, tea types in the major producing countries around the world. Essentially also, understanding the agricultural process, or sort of a glimpse into from bush to cup, as we call it, sensory development, and then the fundamentals of the business of tea, the industry as a whole. We touch some on tea menu and tea pairing, the food elements of tea. And I think that sort of as a whole, the objective is to give students an overall picture, an overall understanding of tea and a little glimpse of the industry as well.
Great. It sounds, like you cover a lot of subjects there.
And it's pretty in depth. It's not for the lighthearted or faint-hearted rather.
What kind of students do you see coming to the program who are choosing to formalize their tea education in this way?
It's really quite interesting because we see a big cross range of people that are interested in this program. There are some people that only take the basics, the very, very beginning, because they're interested in perhaps expanding their tea knowledge. There's certainly lots of adults out there that are big believers in continuing education. So there's that section of students. Then there's a section of students that really want to build up their tea knowledge for the purpose of either expanding their knowledge because they already have a tea business, or they're looking into starting some form of a tea business, whether that be a brick and mortar shop or online. And then the third group are people that are working for major companies. So major tea brands, international companies around the world that want, new employees, new people that they've hired on that perhaps, are very good in marketing or whatever area that they've been hired in, but perhaps not so versed in the subject of tea itself. So they'll enroll some of their employees into the program. So really a big range.
That's great. And are you finding that the certification is gaining traction as people are looking for certification to show their validity in the industry?
Absolutely. I think it's, it was a very popular program from the beginning. We had great success from the beginning. And I think that there were a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's a really well-structured program. Obviously, I'm a little biased in saying that, but I really do believe in this program with all my heart. So A, it's well-structured. B, as I said, it sort of gives that overview. It's not, there are certain areas that you can certainly dive much deeper into further down the line. And third, it's the only certification program that is actually given by industry. It's the actual tea industry within Canada that is sort of certifying this and fully stands behind it. So for those reasons, it's been a popular program from the beginning. What's been really interesting is how much it has grown in the year of COVID, as people are looking for, either ways to fill their time or looking for ways to challenge themselves, expand knowledge, et cetera. So we just continue to see upward growth, which is really, really lovely.
Mackenzie, welcome, and thank you for taking my call today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, Mackenzie, what made you sign up for the Tea Sommelier program?
I've always loved tea, and as someone who works in the industry, I saw a huge amount of value in the Tea Sommelier program. A lot of the graduates, as Shabnam has highlighted, are tea business owners, which is an overlap with my client base and my long-term aspirations. So it was a no-brainer and a natural fit to pursue a program like this.
When you spoke about aspirations there, can you be specific and let us know how this program will help you reach your goals?
For those who have the aspiration of, setting up an e-commerce tea site or tea shop, this program does a really good job at teaching you how to judge the quality of tea and giving you kind of a roadmap to navigate the complex landscape that the tea industry is kind of known for. And for someone who's got that entrepreneurial ambition within the tea space, a program like this is a really good entry point into a world that you wouldn't otherwise become familiar with, aside from trial by fire.
What is one thing that you've learned in the program that really surprised you?
The complexity of tasting. So prior to joining the Tea Sommelier program, I spent a lot of time researching tea. So I was quite familiar with the academic and scientific research that's been produced on the subject. But, when you're enjoying tea in a casual drinking experience, sometimes the sensory details like the taste, it's a little bit lost on you, right? So the Tea Sommelier program really equips you to identify the subtle notes of quality and flavor in tea in a way that you would be very hard-pressed to otherwise match.
Intrigued by what you heard in today's podcast? Would you like to learn more from our global network of Tea Biz journalists and tea experts? Contact them direct through Subtext, a private message-based platform.
Avoid the chaos of social media and start a conversation that matters. Subtext's message-based platform lets you privately ask meaningful questions of the tea experts, academics, and Tea Biz journalists reporting from the tea lands. You see their responses via SMS texts, which are sent direct to your phone. Visit our website and subscribe to Subtext to instantly connect with the most connected people in tea.
Remember to visit the Tea Biz website for more comprehensive coverage. That's www.t-biz.com. Thanks for listening. Farewell till next week.
Produced by Audavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.